Hello, my name is Dr. Emma Campbell. I'm one of the GPs that work at Attune. And Simon, our boss here, has asked me to have a little chat with you about some of the things that may be helpful in this time of lockdown. And I'm trying to make it punchy. It's often hard to make me stop talking, but I'm going to talk briefly about how our nervous system works, how adrenaline might be involved in the stress that we're experiencing at the moment, and how that might feel in our body, and some strategies that are under your control to help improve the way you're feeling right now, in terms of the way you're thinking, the way you're breathing, the way you're moving, and the way you're thinking. And I'll probably give another little talk about relationships and what we're eating and rest, and maybe some talking about our final sort of icing on the cake strategies at the end. And I'd also like to provide you a list of resources. If any of those things interest you, you can tap on the links at the end of this talk. So just starting out, I guess most of you would know a little bit about this concept called fight or flight, or the way our body deals with stress. And they're really commonly used terms in our society, so I think we often are exposed to them. But basically, when we're under threat, either like a lion chasing us on the savannah or an exam coming up, to our body it feels the same. Our body releases adrenaline and cortisol. We tend to go, that's sort of at the hormonal side. In the top of our brain, our thinking, our ability to reason and weigh up pros and cons and how to do things seems to switch off, and we go right down to our most primitive self, like there's a little toddler in our head, in our limbic system, and we're really interested in fight or flight, just staying alive. And in that circumstances, we don't do our best thinking. We're often aggressive, we're often frightened, and being able to sort of comfort that little toddler in your own head and bring yourself into a more calm, relaxed state is really important. So often when we're feeling stressed like that, either from an external threat or an internal threat, it feels yucky in our body. And that's because when we are stressed, that adrenaline goes through the body and prepares us for a big fight or flight, which often doesn't happen. It's just something we're prepared for that doesn't eventuate. Our heart rate goes up, our breathing rate goes up, blood gets shunted to the muscles and we're ready for action. But what we often notice is we get a churning feeling in our tummy because our digestion's switching off, and we feel a bit like we can't get our breath because we're overworking it. And that's a really yucky feeling. So if you recognize those feelings, you often want to go, well, what am I going to do with these things? Going for a run or expending some energy is a really useful thing to do if you can do that, because that's what the whole system is designed for, actually doing something. But if you can't do that, what are some strategies that help you to minimize those yucky feelings? And I'll go back to what I was going to originally talk about. And it's actually really quite basic stuff. And it sounds like some of it seems too good to be true. So one of the things is, I guess, I sort of summarize it by the way you're being. We're so busy rushing around trying to do things that we often don't take time to just be. And that's often summarized in our society as being mindful, being present in the moment, not spending our whole time worrying about the past or fearing what might happen in the future, but just being present in that moment. And the ways that we can do that are just focusing on what our senses are telling us, what we're tasting, what we're smelling, what the chair feels like under our bottom. And there are great apps that can help you to develop these skills, because it is quite a real skill to be able to be present with yourself and nothing else for a little while. The brain is a thinking machine and it wants to get busy, and it can be quite challenging to help it to pin it down. Breathing, so some of the apps would be things like Smiling Mind or Calm. There's another one called Mood Meter, which I can talk about later, but I'll give you those things in the links at the bottom. And another great strategy to help to calm that nervous system is using your breathing. We know that calming our thoughts, if we do have anxious and worried thoughts, helps to settle that nervous system. But calming our body with our breathing is really helpful too. It's sort of like the back door to calming down, rather than going through the front door addressing the way we're thinking. So if you are feeling anxious and worried, just try taking a normal sized breath in and a long, slow, relaxed breath out, particularly focusing on using your belly to really do your breathing. If you're lying on your back, popping a teddy bear on your tummy and giving the teddy bear a good ride up and down helps you make sure that diaphragm is working well. And that's a real very quick way of telling your fight or flight or sympathetic nervous system that there was something to be worried about, but maybe I don't need to worry about it anymore. And I often see people's blood pressure or pulse come down if we have a little bit of practice doing that in my room. And as I mentioned before, moving your body is a great way of dealing with those yucky feelings. We know that your mood lifts quite quickly within about 5 or 10 minutes outdoors or even indoors, moving your body, expending some of that energy. We get those feel-good hormones, the endorphins released in our brain as well. And so your mood lifts quite quickly. If you think, oh, look, I can't face going for an hour-long walk, go for 5 or 10 minutes. If you feel like going for longer, go for longer. But you'll definitely get a lift in your mood. And outside time itself is very healing and restorative to the nervous system. Our cortisol levels drop, our pulse rate drops, our blood pressure drops, and our rest and digest system, the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, really improves when we're outdoors. They've done studies that compare resting time or going for a stroll through a city compared to going through a stroll through the bush, and those outcomes are very clear that being in nature, whether it's in the bush or by the sea or whatever, is really helpful for us and makes us feel calm and relaxed. So yes, exercise, moving your body, ideally outside and even better in the sunshine in the morning, helps to switch off your stress hormones and also helps to make you feel more relaxed about your sleep-wake cycle. Just helps to reset it. Often when we are a bit out of whack with our lives, we tend to go to bed later and miss that early morning sunshine. And early morning sunshine is helpful for helping us sleep well at night and feel good during the day. And the last thing I wanted to talk briefly about today was how we are thinking about things and how we are speaking about things. Ideally, focusing as much as possible, excuse me, on seeking and speaking positively. Finding time to look at the way we're thinking, and often we're talking to ourselves in a way that we would never speak to a friend. We're criticizing ourselves, we're judging ourselves, and that negativity does really seep in and impact on the way we feel about being stressed and so on. There are things that we can control and things we can't control, and when we work in the areas that we can control, we feel much more empowered, and that helps us to feel better. Speaking about positive things to other people and remembering those positive things helps us to stay in that positive frame of mind. So at the end of the day, instead of focusing on the World Wide Web, I like to tell people to do their other WWW, which is what went well. Spend some time either talking to someone over the dinner table if you can, if that's available to you, or writing in a journal, or however you like to approach it. Focusing on 3 things that you're grateful for that day. Seeking those positive memories means we're more thoughtful about it during the day, and it does impact on our mood. The more we appreciate those things, the more they appreciate in our lives. So doing fun stuff just for fun, just for those positive emotions, is important too. It's not frivolous, it's not a waste of time. That does increase your positive emotions, and positive emotions are healing in themselves. They make us more motivated to do good things for ourselves. So stuff that you used to do just for fun, you might have stopped doing: playing cards, making some hopscotch outside, reading a book, doing your nails, whatever it does that feels nice for you, do some more of that, because that will really help improve your mood and your ability to cope with these times. Sorry about that crackly voice at the end. And that's all I've got to say about the first half of things that might help you at this time.